based on what has happened today in Tema Central, for instance, when on the 9th of tomorrow, when the newly elected MPs are being sworn in, Charles Fawcett will be expected to be sworn in as the MP-elect for Tema Central.
For once, I had about Sempa, I had all the updating in a day. A tribune system could be also on Sake be annual like a share ammonia so day. And who dear could be as and be honest, be updated and already in feeling chimney and candy one charming. It was for edify a year declared a result and the NPP for after Supreme Court a year day. A day some mandate Emma a year Accra High Court say omunti a year NDC for some no ruling be a bit biano or more fambra sa ruling by no not just a ruling in United say easy some quite enko quality result no declare result no before or on 6 January sene be asim bed and then asamako na I was here kaise after the ruling na enra a year Accra High Court the Bino. Even during the ruling ne course na nkasa no NDC for who said there be any me course near papa so amko file for appeal say be Accra High Court ruling no the Bino many nje ho the free said there a whole lot of potholes here then ruling so I say it's ye na the correct ruling near the at the bar just enya singetwa so enra na just some legal forms in application the HA Ghana any we are seeing na say ya appeal ni na sisi ni ya kwa register of execution and ya kwa serve EC and Ghana police said the bribe twem no in the same thing as you know on person say na so no and he nyina won say EC accolade result na just say result na 4 na Supreme Court kan was no question no and declare 3 ama NPP for just akaba akupe no so hon sem bebre a say ya suspend ya no ne ablikuma no fa just enya asembeto na no en NDC for legal team for babonti na sem am keka hu ye pa ye beka efe bi na say good news e ma NDC and is a bad news e ma NPP for especially those elected today after recoalition internet kasa omuchima parliament bia ye demra ye adwuma because omna shemra so those elected MPs after this recollated result no omuchima ansha na parliament abane these people and some ni mo hu ye pa no mo ne won chichirum so yenkongoti NDC for legal team no.
So, good afternoon. I need to first indicate that we completely reject the exercises going on in the EC offices.
You completely reject what is transpiring at the EC's offices, but the big question which many are asking is...
And the basis of our rejection is that yesterday, immediately after those rulings, we filed notices of appeal, and not only notices of appeal, we mounted application to stay the execution of those orders. The bailiff went to the Electoral Commission office, even though the office was open with security people. They claimed that there were no officers to receive. We proceeded to the law firm of the lawyers representing the Electoral Commission, and the clerk of that law firm was duly served with the notice of appeal and the application to stay the execution of those orders. It is our belief that whatever the Electoral Commission wanted to do, based on the service of the process on their council, they were going to, as it were, advise them not to proceed. But it appears this morning, the Electoral Commission has decided to defy all the processes that we have filed and to go ahead. We want to put it on record. This is just the beginning of a long, drawn battle. It is in the interest of the commission to have respected the processes of the courts rather than collude with those NPP candidates to do what appears to be purported redeclarations.
Where does this leave you? Because as at now, the Electoral Commission has proceeded, as you say, much against the court processes, declared 3 out of the 4 in the process of declaring...
Have you forgotten that we were here before? The Electoral Commission is not learning. Unfortunately, the intransigence, the stubbornness of the commissioners is amazing. The last time, you hardly proceeded to do this declaration on the basis of a court order. Subsequently, that order was set aside and everything that you have done. So sometimes you want to believe that sobriety will be the lot of these commissioners. But they are so much in haste. They are so much in haste just to please the NPP, against this allowing due process to take its course. I can assure you, and like I pointed out, we are going to fight this matter to its logical conclusion.
At this rate, these 3, because we know 3 have been declared and they've been declared for the NPP, are expected to be sworn in come the night rather of January 7. That means the NPP will have their members in Parliament while you continue to fight this in court. Are you seeking to file further processes to stop the possible swearing in of these individuals?
Tomorrow ends. As somebody will say, tomorrow is pregnant. Let's see how tomorrow ends. Like I told you, we are going to fight this matter. We promise to protect the votes of our people, and we'll use every available legal means to fight this.
We see that for the 3 other declarations, or the earlier declarations as made, your agents were not present. Is this to suggest that based on the processes you filed at the court, you advised the party not to be present at these collation centers?
The candidates respectfully were or are the applicants for the state. Now you have right to stay the execution of an order and participate in the same process. Would you advise that?
I ask this because for Blekuma North right now, there's an NDC agent there who's been raising concerns with respect to the pink sheets being used for collation as well.
Unfortunately, I'm not there, so I am unable to say exactly what's happening there.
So, Council, my last question to you is, will we see these NPP MPs sworn in the 9th tomorrow?
I do not intend to discuss my strategy. I'm holding that to my chest, but let's see how tomorrow ends.
Right then, we'll leave it here. I'm sure we'll come back to you again because, as you said, the strategy is on and you're going to fight this to the very end. That's Eduji Tamaklo. He's the Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC. He's been championing the party's cause with respect to these outstanding constituencies at the courts. I'm going to take you through latest post by Counsel for Ebi Bright. That's the Honorable Roxy Nelson Dapiamekpo, who's been asking quite a number of questions with respect to this particular declaration, as has been done by the Electoral Commission. And he writes that, so the NPP goes to court to say that in Tema Central, the collation was not completed. 2 pink sheets were outstanding. Also, that the accredited EC returning officer was not the one who did the declarations. Now, the court therefore ordered that the accredited returning officer, in pursuance of regulations 2 and 3 of CI 127/2020, to go collate those 2 pink sheets and declare the election results. Now, he goes on to say that this morning, the EC purports to have collated the 2 pink sheets without the accredited returning officer. The collation and then the purported recollation was done this morning by a different person, yet Dr. Sribo, who is supervising this process, also refused to invite the NDC candidate for Tema Central to attend today's collation in pursuance to the court order. They go on to make the argument that what is intriguing is that his client, that is Ebi Bright, was invited to attend the collation yesterday at 4 p.m. They went there, but the EC did not do the collation. So how can an EC properly set up under the Constitution decide to do what it desires to satisfy the NPP always, is a question that he's asking. And he provides evidence of one Ofosuhene asking that they be present at the old head office of the EC at Rich for collation to be done Saturday, 4th of January at 4 p.m. And then they make the argument that that has not happened. Thankfully, Roxy Nelson Dafiamekwa has joined us via the phone lines as well. Counsel, you make the argument that the declaration as has been done this morning was not done by the returning officer as appointed by the Electoral Commission for Tema Central.
Correct, indeed. When your reporter covered the declaration in question, you had the person who announced the declaration and held the hand of Charles Fortin as the winner as being the assistant returning officer. Meanwhile, the prayer of the NPP before the court yesterday was that the accredited returning officer for Tema Central is called Mr. Akwesi, and that he was not the person who declared the Honorable Ebi Bright on the 9th of December. And therefore, this was in breach of Regulation 2 and Regulation 3 of CI 127.
Right.
And ipso facto, the court should declare that declaration as unlawful and direct that the proper thing be done. What did the court do? The court therefore directed that the accredited returning officer for Tema Central, Mr. Akwesi, now go to collect the 2 disputed pink sheets and declare the results, the outcome of the election. We were about to leave court when the EC sent information that we should report for collation at 5 p.m. The information, I've sent you the evidence. The information came via a text message, a WhatsApp
message.
I think the time is 4:13 there about 4:03 p.m. So we had less than 1 hour to prepare to go. And yet we went. When we went, nothing happened. There were nowhere to be found. Only for them to wake up this morning to go and do the set collation without invite. Even if there was a change in the date and time and venue, they ought to have informed us. They did not. Now, the same Metro Director of Usuhini of Tema Central, who deposed to affidavit and said that the accredited EC officer was not the one who did the declaration. Today went there with a different EC officer to go and do the declaration. So, what we have discovered in this country is that the EC is in tacit connivance with the NPP to do their bidding. Otherwise, how else will the EC and with Dr. Sribo supervising this not ensure that the returning officer on record for Tema Central be the one who should supervise the collation this morning? And 2, why not ensure that the candidate for the NDC for Tema Central, the Honorable Ebi Bright, be invited and present at the collation? You see, like Edwin said, they have been here before. 2 weeks ago, they sat in the same places and did collation. So they don't realize that you cannot engage in illegality and walk away. So to NPP, when they engage in illegality, it should become legal. The court was very specific, and I'm sure that the Ghana Police Service is also offering support and protection for such an illegality to proceed. The police ought to have ensured that any accredited person who is sitting there is the person who is supposed to be there in pursuance of the court order. You heard that in respect of Crime Police Center or the other one, it was also another assistant returning officer.
So the challenge is that the deputies are the ones declaring the results. The argument can simply be made that the Electoral Commission appointed a returning officer and then the deputy. And so if the returning officer is not available, the deputy is expected to be able to carry out the functions of the returning officer. What's the challenge with that?
Where is the evidence that the returning officer for Tema Central is not available? Where is the evidence? He is the returning officer who supervised the election. The court didn't make the order. You see, what is happening today is in response, is in pursuance of a court order. So everything ought to be done in pursuance of that order and nothing else. The court didn't say that if the returning officer for Tema Central is not available, then the EC can appoint another officer to perform that function. The court didn't do that. In fact, Oposuhini in deposing to his affidavit before the court didn't say that the returning officer for Tema Central, as at the time he deposited the affidavit and was being considered by a court, was not available. So that matter did not engage the court. So they are completely engaged in an illegality. What they have done is not in accord with the order of the court. That is why the NDC is rejecting this into two.
You're rejecting this. It's an argument that you're making. This is an illegality. You're not going to accept it. But the question still remains, or the fact still remains, that based on what has happened today in Tema Central, for instance, when on the 9th of tomorrow, when the newly elected MPs are being sworn in, Charles Fawcett will be expected to be sworn in as the MP-elect for Tema Central.
Okay, one, you are aware that we have filed other court processes.
That we are very much aware of.
Good. And those processes have also been served on the clerk to Parliament. So the clerk to Parliament is aware of the legal tangle in issue in respect of all these constituencies. So Parliament, as an organ of state, may not be invited to engage in an illegality. So I am sure that Parliament, in its wisdom, will know what to do.
Where they'll know what to do is that they will not swear in these members of Parliament. Is that the expectation on your part as a party, having served Parliament with these court processes?
No, but if we have competing rights and the rights have not been settled, how would anybody be prepared to affirm the right of one party over the other? Unless the matter is eventually determined by the court to its finality. That's why the EC ought not to have done what it is doing, especially when they have been served with the French court processes by us. Why would the EC ignore processes that we have had from the court?
Said the team sema hodo abavonteno and the NDC for legal team for nature say James and one suande James and a sworn ding on the entire AC in a sworn ding. Every day they try to be stubborn. Or moon because the Wusia dear Kesi we Akra High Court da. And the NDC for Adrian Court a Supreme Court. Aqua G the same stay of execution. And some injunction editor recollection and I'm Tessano a police station. And a man tiasie most more fahon. And na ekuriasi no court Supreme Court di ruling by a kwashe sa recollected result na maye no omzini nyina amfa kwam etia eya Accra High Court na ruling bibra mo ye nyina no omse omon koye niam nyina afoforo enne omasa akwaji appeal catch us ruling na Accra High Court di maye no ye ni nje ho. There is a whole lot of potholes. Nyama be bro who judge no yenim so on tiasi so na planting there we don't know because I'm not paying mamuti say during a year ruling in bana Tema Tema Central at the Ebeto Jano. Yenya NPP ni Kesi Babonti Beka say ruling near the amount this constituency no. The same ruling near the Bema for a track and in Abrekran MPU. Penyampa court did the same ruling in Pia Bonting Ebebekai. NDC penny ene a yes our press conference no. So a dane and no kosher judges for nitrim. In who DBC dachi. Abrekra na report bian by Abrekra na case no mugusu di and so timi who DBC. How? So as if say near cookie a ye rule in the crampo that as if say near cookie rule in the crampo that and I just say people bunting. So and near my no the same thing and I say repeating who be Omako appeal akwa stay of execution ese ba be 7 AC se munjai na ade na Accra High Court ruling on the by no when the case ni there is a lot of portals ma as one verify nema be prepare omo ankasa nema mo di pia bonten chese NDC fonse ma pia bonten be kan say na NPP for cancer ma on verify no agya tum ye na yeku yenim na ruling aba ye na yeku na ruling aba intino omo enye satisfied. So the interest is easier stubborn no and say the same thing happen at 1 month in crime so any court and a court quashes are ruling. As our quashi exercise now Musa and Tessano Ebeka as a financial loss to the state because I near my course more high police for in your name air corn electricity near my muye winano as in your qua and ye fine age. The same thing happen also as wunti NDC for wunti and was another regulation and they say NDC for chase and grow for now with declare almost as someone science because there is some court issue I come say court issue a case being one still now with me the boldness and power to go on to do things such as say court in for ruling enyam ben wie because in Crawford Monte the interested party in some Monte still now but go ahead akwa the person bia. So as she speaking no NDC legal team no omodin sembe bra ba bonten chire bisi dachin because omo kase omo ntiase omo njintum as omo chire bisi dachin na omo kase oh especially NDC MP Dafian upon say lawyer ne chire say a year few hours ahead ebesu enkrofo in Nyaza okay ebedru ho nsankrofo no ya elect omun ko parliament ni yenhwe omun ra parliament woni yenhwe because parliament is a house of law and a hono ye shemra edimra so na ye adwuma so edimra na ye adwuma dia that means they are going to ban them omun share those people in or say I share those people in and say parliament edimra na ye adwuma dia sana ABBC and on person based it in emphatically na bebe ba be wiase ne aka say all kind na say insist abi end the day be or say parliament a house of law there na say dem na ye adwuma there any kwan say assume in no nim say an hwa ye assume in because there's a court order, there's a court application a pending a hango ye nyen wi sa a court application no till said the other party ni be satisfied no na ya go ahead ni ya go into conclusion they certified pinch aba ni the medical incorporation because the will of the Ghanaians ever say no stand tall say no jina Kesi ni hu say the will of the Ghanaians is superior than any other law. So this time now they are saying say it was say more protect a man for vote. It was said the Ghana for an episode and I said those people in that constituency no the more person di omo nim no I was see it me no oh mra kwan so said the enable kuma no for be can say return officer can say or no kwa find so many ways because any work in Ghana now 20 a year polling stations now only authentic air result no or finding many ways akwa like how ko dream and the old saying so it was say prepare ye adwuma yentimi mfa duro bia be room say magician there be the one who say ade na 20 then there be I was say the Ghana for hwehwe no ye de adwuma na enije ene democracy ni team protect because ade ekui NDC for some months and they are fighting and they are going to fight till say justice be prevail at just enya asenketo semi be no mo kan bit ma cha under the comment section nsem na no hye pa we am ra and I just a share just ye bobo ho yes ye tested the law so na be a future no ye bre na just any ma be dey be ko ya ma nyina Alpha One so ne because so dey update na bre menko be bia abusan fra Akroma.